Hey, welcome to Friday. Welcome to Planet Earth. We got some history. We got some dinosaurs. We got some football. Hey, it's Friday. What did you expect, right? I hope everything's going great for you. And we've reached the end of the week and got a new one coming up and some time to rest. And if you got to work over the weekend, hey, if you're having a great time, just keep it up. If you're not, the whole thing starts over again tomorrow. You can start fresh. So how you guys doing, man? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and always hop there in the comments and correct my many many mistakes. So ever hear of this movie called Red Dawn? Back in 1984, it's about a Soviet invasion of the United States. Look at this tagline here. In our time, no foreign army has ever occupied American soil until now. That's actually not true. People have occupied American soil. It didn't work. They weren't here very long, and some of them never left. But this wasn't the movie I was watching. I was watching the remake. Yeah, the one in 2012. Now, the one in 1984, it wasn't good. It wasn't supposed to be good. You weren't really supposed to take it seriously. This one, they tried to make it serious, with the Chinese instead of the Russians, and they turned them into North Koreans at the last second. They tried to turn some kind of serious movie you're supposed to think about. Oh, give me a break. No, it didn't. Made me laugh for all the wrong reasons. But hey, let's get back to original premise. American soil has been occupied. In fact, it was under occupation on day one. You ever hear of the Revolutionary War, British Redcoats? Yeah, 1775 to 1783, fighting the British up and down the East Coast, man. They were in Philly, they were in New York, they were in Boston, Savannah, Charleston, everything in between. Got trapped in Yorktown, and it was all over. But yeah, here they are walking around on American soil. There was some bad stuff that happened, particularly down south with farms getting burned. Some civilians got shot, but for the most part, both sides played by the rule and said rule about the British Redcoats. It's not the Waffen SS. Nonetheless, they occupied American soil and lost. Hey, the War of 1812, often called the Forgotten War. Why? Because both sides wanted to forget about it. You talk about two armies that were just not ready to fight, man. I don't know what they were thinking. Got the British Redcoats here, different looking hat, and the American soldiers trying to mirror the British, except they were blue instead of red. Yeah, it just like neither side knew what they were doing. They're just kind of fumbling around the whole time. But yeah, the British did take over Detroit briefly before we chased them out. But the thing everybody remembers is when the British burned down the White House. Right? They landed in Maryland, tried to take Baltimore, couldn't do it. Had a diversion that went to D.C., chased off the militia, ate dinner at the White House, and burned it down. Right? Not very good guests. Didn't hang around very long either. But they were there briefly, occupying American soil. Haven't been back since. They know better. Ever hear of the Thornton ambush? Now you have. Back in 1830s, 1836 actually, Texas had the revolution, became an independent country. Mexico refused to acknowledge it, but after a while they kind of de facto acknowledged it. And they said the border of Texas was here. Texas, of course, claims it's there. And what it did, it came down to the Nucas River, right here, and the Rio Grande down here. So Mexico says the border's here, Texas says it's there. United States annexes it, and now we inherit the border dispute. So they send a cavalry patrol by Lieutenant Seth Thornton down to the Rio Grande to assert U.S. control. We see it as walking around on our own soil. Mexico sees it as an invasion of Mexico. So Ariste is the Mariano Ariste is the Mexican colonel who ambushes it, takes people prisoner, and starts the Mexican War. So that's how it started. This is how it ended. It started with an attack on what we thought was American soil, ended up a lot of Mexican soil becoming part of the United States. Seth Thornton, by the way, eventually was released in a prisoner exchange, and he died in the last battle of the war right in front of Mexico City. Ariste lost every battle he fought in and then became Mexico's president before dying. So it's one of these things where it just doesn't really seem to work out too well for anybody. But hey, we got to rip the northern half of Mexico off. More problems with Mexico. Yep, Mexico occupied American soil in 1916. Right, long before the Zimmerman telegram, Pancho Villa decided to jump across into Columbus, New Mexico for extra supplies he couldn't get. And they weren't going to sell it to him, so I decided to take it from him, and we've got a bit of a fight on our hand. The U.S. Army had a small garrison. Pancho Villa, his army, a lot of U.S. volunteers over here. We had a big shootout. 18 Americans killed. We don't know how many Mexicans, but quite a few. Buried them in a big ditch somewhere near the Hoover Hotel. and it started a big, what's the professional historical term? A big hullabaloo. Yep, because it didn't just stop with a raid into New Mexico. U.S. Army launches a punitive expedition down into Mexico immediately afterwards in 1916. Blackjack Pershing leading the whole thing. And as you can tell, north central Mexico, they're kind of under occupation. They're looking for Pancho Villa. You know, they have a couple battles. He runs away in time. We lost a couple people. We lost like 40. So Mexico finally kind of got tired of it and asked us to leave because, you know, been there a long time. Start off with 6,000 American soldiers going into Mexico. Eventually it was 12,000. Before they finally got tired of it and decided to leave, Pancho Villa eventually got assassinated. This is also the first military campaign where the U.S. Army used motorcycles. Yeah, for the first time. So, oh well, got a nice footnote out of this, right? Hey, in the Second World War, the Japanese invaded the Aleutian Islands. Yep, that's American soil, right? We bought it from the Russians in 1867. They occupied the two outermost islands there in the Aleutians, right? Attu and Kiska. Why they did this? Well, I mean, it looks kind of far over there, but you could use it as a base to keep working your way up the Aleutians and take over the North Pacific. If nothing else, it's a good early warning system when the Americans try to fight their way back to Japan, and they do. It's really cold, the middle of nowhere, and it's the kind of place nobody really wanted to be. Yeah, just take a look at this. These U.S. soldiers, couple of divisions that were trained in Southern California in the desert, get sent here to the edge of the Arctic. Don't think the Japanese are having a lot of fun either, right? So, I mean, they took Kiska back and then Attu, and I think the remaining 300 or 400 Japanese there committed mass suicide. They just couldn't leave. But anyway, so it's one of those places nobody wanted to really be there. Now, I know you notice I didn't mention Pearl Harbor, right? Because that was an attack on American soil, but nobody actually stood there and occupied it for any amount of time. Other people also bring up the fact that a Japanese submarine in late 1941 launched a couple of shells at a refinery in Santa Barbara, California. Again, nobody was actually occupying it, so I didn't count that. There's the German submarine launched a couple of shells at a beach in Massachusetts in 1917. So like I said, no one actually was standing on American soil, so I didn't count those. But then we get this rather interesting one that a lot of people remember. Right, September the 11th. Well, is that as an attack on America? It's an attack on American soil, but is it, you know, enemy on American soil? Considering the operatives have been here a while, you know, maybe, and this definitely led straight to, you know, the war in Afghanistan. So I don't know if we catch that or not, but it does make you think, doesn't it? All right, speaking of thinking, this name will make you think, right? It means terrible murderer. Teratophoneus, that's what I'm going to call it. Teratophoneus. Take a good look at this guy. You look familiar? Yeah, looks like a mini T-Rex kind of, right? But he's not a mini T-Rex. He's definitely related, right? Look at this. Two finger claws, very small. He was running around in the western part of North America, the other side of Western Interior Seaway, 77 to 76 million years ago, maybe a little bit later. So he is definitely way ahead of T-Rex. Definitely an ancestor of some kind. And you see it looks slightly feathered here, so they're taking the middle route between scaly and feathered, right? This is what I think it would look like, to be honest with you. So Teratophoneus, terrible murderer. I met this guy for the first time last week. Yeah, you and I were here talking about Cosmoceratops, right? And this is interesting because it looks like a T-Rex Triceratops battle, but it's not. It's actually earlier. Both guys are somewhat smaller, so it's kind of like preseason where you see the second string guys and the big guys show up when the regular season starts. So still the same dynamic. We have a two-legged carnivore against a four-legged horned plant eater. And like I said, I still can't get over the frills on this thing's, the horns on this frill, but you know, it's there for a reason. We know it exists. But here's our guy we're talking about today, the terrible murderer. Now, was he a pack hunter? We think it might be. They have found footprints stalking a Cosmoceratops and two individuals on opposite sides. So obviously there's two and they're chasing him. Are they pack hunters? Are they two just happen to be hunting the same animal? Yeah, you know, if it is a pack hunter, look at it. You can attack this thing from two sides. Definitely a lot easier. Makes you wonder if T-Rex was a pack hunter. If this is an ancestor, must have the same sort of behaviors, don't you think? I mean, a juvenile T-Rex definitely probably pack hunters more than likely. But how about when they become adults? It's kind of big, doesn't really need a lot of help. On the other hand, man, 2-on-1 makes things easier, right? Many hands make light work. So a battle between the terrible murderer, Teratophoneus, and our friend Cosmoceratops. 70% outcome for the meat eater is my calculation. Same thing we calculated outcome between T-Rex and Triceratops. I don't think the dynamic has changed a lot. Certainly big enough to be a problem here, right? I mean, look at this thing. It's got to be a good 25, 30 feet long. If it stands up to its full height, easily 12 feet tall, more than enough to take out Homo sapiens showing up there in a suit and a briefcase. I don't know, what are you doing? Are you trying to give this thing a restraining order or something? I don't think it's going to work, man. Nope, not at all. So here's a couple of more depictions of it, and it's the classic scaly version of it right there, and over here's the feathered one. I just realized it has 3 claws instead of 2, but you get the basic point. Like I said, it's like the first picture. I think it's somewhere in between, more this direction, but maybe fuzzy peach fuzz kind of feathers perhaps. Hey, take a look at the skulls here between T-Rex and its ancestor Teratophoneus here. It's not just a smaller T-Rex. This animal is somewhat different. One thing people notice, it could probably open his jaw a bit wider. That's speculative, of course. But the skull is definitely deeper. If you take a look at this thing, it's like it's strange that it's smaller but deeper, and that would seem to indicate it has maybe even a greater bite force than its descendant T-Rex. If it's not greater, it's in the neighborhood. It's got to be fairly close. So I don't know why Mother Nature decided to give T-Rex a little bit less bite force than its ancestor, but either one, you don't want to get bitten by either one of these things. It's going to be a bad day. Hey, what's going to be a good day? European League of Football Championship. Yep, that is on Sunday. Who's playing? We got ourselves the defending champion Rhine Fire versus the Vienna Vikings. Last year, Rhine Fire was undefeated, defeating my Stuttgart Surge, and the Vikings had a really good year, had 1 loss. This time it's reversed. Rhine has 1 loss, and Vienna is undefeated. So a lot of people are betting on Vienna. I don't know, I got a good feeling about Rhine, man. They've been here. Both real good teams, though. So I wonder how this one's going to turn out. If you don't want to watch football across the pond, let's stick to our side of the world here. My Steelers and the Broncos. Pittsburgh wins it 13-6. It wasn't pretty, but we got the win. There's our starting quarterback, Justin Fields, making a run for it. Yep, they're playing in Denver. You know something strange here? Yeah, they're wearing white at home. You don't wear your white jerseys at home. Mr. H hates that, right? Because the white jerseys are usually plain. The darker jerseys look better. You keep your best uniform for the home crowd, right? The visitors, who cares about them? You're on the road, wear a plain jersey. Doesn't matter. Nonetheless, they decided to wear white at home. They brought the wrath of Mr. H down on them, and Pittsburgh wins a squeaker 13-6. Defense looked awesome. Offense was just kind of there, but they got enough. Anyway, as you've noticed, the starting quarterback was Justin Fields. That leads you to the question, where was Russell Wilson? He was supposed to be the starter when the year started. He had a calf injury, so he figured out 1 week, whereas week 2, and he's not starting against his former team, the Broncos. You figure that guy be ready to go for that one. So I think that calf injury is something a lot worse. Nonetheless, hey, we got the win. Justin Fields 2-0. Can't complain. So we got the Chargers and Steelers coming up. It's our home opener. We've had 2 games on the road. Get to play in the friendly confines of Acrisure Stadium right there down the road. So this should be a fun game because the Chargers are also 2-0. Their offense seems to be better. We'll see how that turns out. But both teams have really good defenses. So there's our starting quarterback for week 3. Once again, Justin Fields. I got a feeling this is our guy the rest of the way. Russell Wilson signed a 1-year contract. He's going to spend that year on the bench, assuming something doesn't happen here to Justin. But, I think it'll work out. Now, how's the game going to work out? What did you think I was going to say? Of course I'm going to say the Steelers are going to win, man. I think it's going to be kind of a close one, though. 13-10. That's my official prediction, right? Let's see how I am on this one. You guys have yourself a fantastic day. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. And at least 3 errors I can think of. You can point that out in the comments. And I will see you again next week. Have a great day and das vidanya.